as we spoke about last week, I was a little exhausted getting back from LA. So I had to push it back. But it's great that you found my Twitter and stuff, and like, you know, I'm pretty into electronic music in general.
Yeah.
And I recently, well, not recently, but realized how much I'm into house and trance. Like, my love for it is like, I don't know, I've always been into it, but like,
yeah.
I don't know, recently.
Never ending.
Yeah. So let's kind of start at the beginning. I know I've been on your website and we've talked, but like, I want the listeners that don't really know much about you, kind of just, you know, where your love for music is and kind of how it all started.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, I've been listening to electronic music since '92. I'm kind of an oldie. I'm going to go ahead and I'm 35 now. So back in the '92, I was like 12. And I got into it through a group called Two Unlimited in Houston, Texas. They're a group that you might have heard, like the theme song, a lot of sports games and stuff. It's the the dun 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 dun. Yeah. So that's them. That was like one of their biggest hits. But they have a lot of other stuff too, and they're kind of big back in the day when they first came out. Anyway, so I got into them, and a song called Twilight Zone. That's another one that they did. And I just kind of listened to it for a long time. Didn't really, where I'm from, we don't really have much of a scene. So I was kind of the kid in the record store listening to a bunch of, music and kind of picking up stuff. And, back in the day when you could go into a record store and kind of pick up headphones, and they had these little kiosks where they had CDs, and you push a button and you could listen to music that way before the internet, really. And I just picked up a bunch of stuff from, like, Paul Oakenfold was a big influence for me. So I want to say when I was probably 18 or 19, I really started kind of collecting, and about 20, 21, started going to the clubs in Dallas. I'm originally from East Texas, so the closest major city where I was from is Dallas. So I went to Dallas and saw a bunch of DJs that I'd seen their names and flyers and on the web and stuff, but never wasn't really familiar with the club environment and that kind of thing. So that was cool seeing that, and I was like, man, why are these songs so long? I'm used to these radio edits that are like 2-3 minutes, and these are like 8-minute songs. Why is that? So it was cool, kind of just learning and getting into the whole thing. And so I guess my first couple of CDs were mix compilations, that were really like DJ mixes, and those happened to be in the trance genre. And fell in love with it, and I think it was Trance Nation America, like 2003 or 4 or something like that, around there. And just wore that thing out like crazy, and said, hey, I'm going to try to figure out how this stuff is made. It's pretty interesting. So I walked into a record store, and it was a kind of record/instrument store, and they had a section for keyboards and synthesizers and stuff, and I went and played around with a lot of that. And just bought a keyboard with a built-in sequencer. At the time, I didn't know you needed a computer or needed other stuff that you had to really have in order to make music. And so I had my little synthesizer and made some music that then would export from the keyboard to like a file, and uploaded that to forums. Back in during that time, a lot of the electronic music was being released via like on forums and stuff. That was where you found out about parties and that kind of thing and events. And there was one site in particular called DallasDanceMusic.com. I think they're actually still up, and that we used to frequent and post mixes. And then there were some other places around that were from like out of Europe and Italy and the Netherlands and stuff that people would post to as well. So and so I created an alias, Mitka, that I had been going by for the past 10 years or so. And really, I guess about 2007 or 6 or whatever, I finished up college and decided that I wanted to try to do this as full time and kind of make a go at it basically, and try to, tour and do the whole, thing. So I decided to come out to San Francisco. And just packed up all my stuff, saved up a bunch of money, and came out here. Happened to get a decent job and met somebody through a radio station that I worked at. Radio station was actually a dance music radio station. It was the first one that I'd ever heard, that was just solely dance at the time. I was like, man, California's good already. Jeez. So that was cool. Ended up getting a studio with, actually, it's funny, the studio I was in has a lot of the big names you might have heard of already, like Miguel Miggs was in the same building as me. Dirty Bird, the guys like Claude Von Stroke and Justin Martin, all those guys that were in my studio. And some of the other Ohm Records and some of these other larger names. The name of the complex is Molten Studios. It's now defunct, but it was really cool learning and growing and kind of building my brand as a trance artist at that time. So after a while, my releases started getting noticed and started picking up some steam. I released on Alter Ego Records, and my latest release before I decided to quit doing trance was Future Sound of Egypt with Ali and Fila. So I released with those guys. And I've always been a big lover of house music and just all forms of electronic, but I feel that house has more of a story to tell than trance, for me personally. I think you can, get away with kind of playing different, starting out slow and building up energy and coming back down again. And, whereas trance, you can do that to a degree, but a lot of trance DJs are just kind of, they're pretty hard, pretty fast out of the gate. So, I think I like the variety that house allows you to, do as a DJ. And then also the styles tend to be a little, wider scope. So that's attractive to me. So that's it in a nutshell. Hope I haven't talked your ear off.
No. So you talk about aliases. So why do you? Well, I mean, I guess the question is, it's not the first time we've heard of a DJ or an artist or a producer to take an alias. But what is it about an alias that kind of defines, I don't know, like a journey in music? Because most people, well, there's aliases like all the time. Like Perry Corson has an alias, Marcus Schultz has an alias. I mean, you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
So what is the appeal to, find that like alias for maybe a different sound you want to go for, or
right? Well, I don't know, I want to speak for them, but marketing music in general, it's easier to market if you have a sound associated with your name. Whereas you have guys like Matt Zoe who are kind of doing different things, whether it's like chill, down-tempo, drum and bass, electro, trance. He kind of does a little bit of everything. He's able to do that because he's established himself through Ingenieur Beats and, some of the other labels and stuff before he, started to diversify a little bit. But when you're coming up, you want to kind of have an anchor for people to hold on to and recognize what it is that you do. When they see your name, it's like, okay, well, he has this kind of sound, so so I think, that Guriella is a, alias for Ferry Corsten, and that's a certain sound. And then, like Marcus Schultz, I think, has had some other, he's got the Dakota alias, and,
right.
And each one of those names has a certain sound, associated with it. And, I think that's just for, Marcus and some